This is Dr.RED Panda.
In a previous episode, I talked about Thailand's cat Hoi culture, often referred to as ladyboys. However, Thailand isn't the only country with such a gender-diverse group. In India, there is a similar community known as the Hijras, a term commonly used to refer to Indian transgender individuals. So how did this unique Hijra community in India come to be? How do they make a living today? Hello everyone, I'm Dr.RED Panda. Today, let's take a closer look at the lives of India's Hijras. In ancient India, Hijras were deeply respected. They were called servants of the gods or bringers of good fortune. People not only offered them food but also gifted them clothing. However, modern Indian society increasingly marginalizes the Hijra community. These transgender individuals often face severe discrimination and violence, living in extremely difficult conditions. Finding a proper and dignified way to integrate this marginalized group has become a pressing and complex issue for the Indian government. The origins of the Hijra community. The Hijra community is quite different from Thailand's Kathuis. While Thai Kathuis typically undergo gender transformation through hormone therapy and cosmetic procedures, Hijras in India often undergo a traditional form of surgery. This operation usually takes place when the boys are between the ages of 10 and 15. After the surgery, they begin learning how to dress, behave, and carry themselves like women. The Hijra community has an ancient history, believed to be almost as old as Hinduism itself. Scholars have traced their origins back to the time of the Ramayana, one of India's most revered ancient epics. In the Ramayana, there is a story in which Prince Rama decides to renounce his royal life and live in the forest for 14 years. Before departing, he instructs his followers, "Men, go toward the rising sun. Women, go toward the setting sun." Eventually, all of his followers leave, including his most loyal servants, except for one elderly eunuch. This person, identifying as neither male nor female, tells Rama that they are unwanted by either group and have nowhere to go. So, they choose to remain faithfully by their master's side. With the help of the Monkey King, Rama defeated the Demon King and was granted divine powers. When he discovered that the eunuch had waited faithfully for him for 14 years, he was deeply moved. Touched by this unwavering loyalty, Rama bestowed upon the eunuch the ability to bless others. From then on, people began to revere this figure, offering food and clothing in exchange for blessings. No longer would the eunuch have to worry about hunger or hardship. Ramayana was written around 2,300 years ago. This suggests that the Hijra community has a history of at least 2,000 years, and possibly even 3,000 years, adding a mystical and sacred aura to their identity through this legendary tale. Over time, Hijras became primarily active in towns and villages across northern India. During weddings, childbirths, and festive celebrations, they would arrive to perform traditional songs and dances, bringing joy and blessings to the occasion. At the end of these events, the hosts would express their gratitude by offering food, clothes, or practical gifts to the Hijras. Western historians have also studied the origins of the Hijra community and found that they were originally eunuchs who served in ancient Indian royal courts. Their talents in music and dance were considered refined arts, entertainment reserved for kings and nobles. More than 2,000 years ago, the regions along the Ganges River were dotted with small Aryan city-states that frequently went to war. When these kingdoms fell, the palace eunuchs were forced to fend for themselves on the streets. To survive, they turned to singing and dancing, eventually forming dedicated Hijra performance troupes that carried on their cultural legacy. Many of these individuals were literate, educated, and even had some knowledge of medicine or basic science, which earned them great respect among the common people. There's a particularly unique phenomenon in Indian society. No matter how much the ruling elite changed laws or adopted new religions, the everyday traditions of Hinduism among the general population remained largely unchanged, a rarity in the world. Whether during the era of Buddhist rule or later under Islamic governance, the deeply rooted elements of Indian society persisted. These include the caste system, which categorizes people into rigid social hierarchies, the celebration of Hindu festivals and customs, and the continued presence of unique societal roles like the Hijras and the Sadhus, ascetics. The British arrived. When the British colonizers first arrived in India, they were particularly intrigued by the Hijra community. They noticed that Hijras bore a resemblance to Europe's Romani people, surviving by performing dances and songs at celebrations and festive events. However, to their surprise, they discovered that some members of the Hijra community were also involved in sex work, catering to the specific desires of certain male clients. Because of this, many upper caste groups explicitly banned Hijras from entering their towns or villages. At one point, the British even transported a group of Hijras to Europe to be exhibited in human zoos. These castrated men had unusual physiques, tall, thin, with large hands and feet. They had male faces painted heavily with makeup and wore the vibrant saris traditionally worn by Indian women. These dancers were especially skilled in Indian classical dance, with some demonstrating such exquisite artistry that they captivated even the British onlookers. As the British studied the inner workings of Hijra organizations more closely, they found that the community's rules and structure resembled the traditional guild systems of ancient craftspeople. Most Hijras came from impoverished families. When a child reached around 10 years old, parents might entrust him to an older Hijra to raise. Initially, the senior Hijra would refuse, testing the parents' resolve. Only after repeated insistence would the child be accepted and undergo castration. Once castrated, the child was forced to leave his home and would never see his family again. Due to poor medical conditions at the time, many boys did not survive the procedure. Those who survived the castration would then become apprentices, learning the essential skills of the Hijra life. They dressed as women, imitated feminine mannerisms, and trained rigorously in dancing and singing, two vital talents for the community. These skills were passed down from generation to generation. Exceptional performers earned the honorary title of guru and were held in high regard by the community. The Hijra community operated on a system of shared property. They lived communally, sharing food, income, and responsibilities. Groups would often work under a leader known as the mother, who organized activities and led the troop. However, no one was allowed to secretly hoard earnings. A designated village committee oversaw finances. Upon the death of a mother, her assets were seized and redistributed among other community members. Whoever received the inheritance became the new mother and could form a new troop. Today, there are hundreds of thousands of Hijras in modern India, many of whom are still respected in rural areas, particularly for their role in traditional ceremonies. However, during the 19th and 20th centuries, increasing land scarcity and the community's growing association with gambling, drug use, and sex work led to the spread of disease and the loss of public trust. In the early 20th century, some Indian villages used child trafficking as a pretext to carry out extrajudicial executions of Hijras. These incidents caught the attention of the government, which responded by issuing official bans. Hijras were forbidden from forming their own organizations, and the public was prohibited from carrying out vigilante justice. Fortunately, in most cases, Hijras were harmless guests at weddings. They would show up to eat and drink, and in accordance with custom, hosts would offer them food. It was a mutually understood tradition, no debts owed on either side. The current plight of the Hijra community. The exact number of Hijras in India is a subject of debate. While government figures hover around 1 million, some Indian researchers estimate the actual count could be as high as 2 to 3 million, a record number. This community encompasses individuals who have undergone gender reassignment surgery, those born with intersex traits, and others who have altered their physical characteristics through hormonal treatments, similar to practices in Thailand. In India, Hijras often struggle to make ends meet through odd jobs, leading very difficult lives. The rapid population growth of the 20th century left many impoverished Indians facing starvation, leading some to believe that joining the Hijra community offered a better chance of survival. Over the past decade, more than 200,000 Indian farmers have tragically taken their own lives due to bankruptcy, while tens of millions more endure extreme poverty. Their children often become a significant source for the growing Hijra population. As the number of Hijras increases, internal management within the community has become more chaotic. Many fraudulent individuals have infiltrated these organizations. Instead of traditional singing and dancing performances, some now aggressively solicit tourists for money at popular sites, and some have even become involved in drug trafficking and sex work. Currently, the Hijra community in India faces severe health challenges, with the highest HIV infection rate in the country, along with widespread prevalence of other sexually transmitted diseases. Rural women in India are particularly resentful of this community, as intoxicated men can easily transmit diseases to their families. The Indian government does aim to reduce the size of the Hijra community, primarily due to the social problems and instability they are often perceived to cause. Furthermore, international pressure, particularly from Western nations, criticizes the situation as a violation of human rights and a negative aspect of Indian society. India's desire for recognition from Western countries motivates its efforts to appear more civilized and respectable. Indian authorities are officially urging parents to resist the Hijra community and protect their sons from being taken. However, the eunuch culture is deeply ingrained in India, making a complete eradication of this phenomenon incredibly challenging. Notably, the Hijra community even includes individuals from higher castes who actively participate in political movements and use legal avenues to defend the rights of the entire community. In recent years, the Indian government has been providing employment support for impoverished populations, offering centralized training to help unemployed farmers secure basic necessities. Simultaneously, the government is also guiding traditional performing groups like the Hijras to explore broader employment opportunities, encouraging them to achieve self-sufficiency through other forms of work. Despite these efforts, within Indian society, the Hijras face severe discrimination, with a social standing almost equivalent to the lowest castes. Even those who possess professional skills often find it difficult to gain acceptance within mainstream society. However, a prevailing sentiment suggests that rather than attempting to eradicate this community, it might be more pragmatic for society to learn to coexist peacefully with them. After all, India already grapples with numerous complex internal issues, and avoiding further complications is seen by many as a sensible approach. Considering the situation of the Hijra community in Indian society, what are your thoughts? How should we understand and view this social phenomenon? Feel free to share your insights in the comments below, and let's discuss this together. And that's a wrap for this episode of the video. I'm DR.RED Panda. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Until next time, take care.